Thank you, sir. That was very moving. I wish I had brought my parents. As famed Professor Krishnakumar once said, Vadyar gitta mic kodutha podungiradhu kashtam. Pavam actor gitta mic koduthirukinga. So I wish you all the best over what happens in the next course of 5 minutes. I want to start by saying it's truly an honor to be here. Dr. RC, as he's now being fondly called on stage, was my Pakathu Vittu Mama when I was growing up in Chennai, and I knew him at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. And I can tell you it is testament of the fact that he's one of the world's leading nephrologists and just doctors and physicians in general. But I can tell you why that I remember that, because I barely saw him in the 5 years I lived in the house next to him. And from what I heard from my parents, that's a doctor's life. You never know when you're going to be home. You never have a meal time. You never have time for your children. And I had his daughters grow up in my house, and his wife, who looks exactly the same from 35 years ago, they've seen me as a child, and I've seen her kids as babies, and we've seen him as the insanely hardworking nephrologist saving lives, always in the wee hours of the morning. I remember that we would hear stories of him being called away for surgery or for an important consultation, and I think he's one of the reasons I didn't become a doctor, because we were just discussing the big wall between being an engineer and being a doctor will dissolve. I always wanted to be in films, so I think, but Uncle, it's really an honor, and I can say the same thing about you, about your candor, your way of knowing your audience, your ability to tell a joke, and I said, your stand-up comedy routine is outstanding. He said, yeah, it has to be really good, otherwise they'll fall asleep. And that's knowing your audience really well. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your curiosity. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And looking at that AV in the beginning, if you noticed, it's also testament to the fact that he's been, leading the assault on salt for the last 3 decades. But he also looks exactly the same trim, the shape of his physicality, the energy of his demeanor. And I think that says a lot about a physician who practices what he preaches. So thank you for everything, Dr. RC, and thank you for having me here today. I really enjoyed listening to Professor Krishnakumar, and I'm one of the nerds here who actually would wish for him to speak for another hour, because we've all been studying this particular subject that you've just touched the tip of the iceberg today. And just to put a few of your minds at rest, am I going to lose my job to AI is a very standard question. You're not alone in that. I have an answer to that. If you have a job that you can explain in 1 sentence, AI will take your job. As long as you have a job that you can't describe with predictable sincerity, which means that even you don't know the exact gamut of what you're excited to do or expected to do, then AI will have a tough time, taking your job. So I was also telling Ram that until one human being stands in front of another human being and has the ability to change their lives, AI doesn't have a patch on humanity. So bringing that to the medical field, I'll again quote your venerable Dr. RC when he said that the science of medicine will change, but the art of medicine cannot change, because that is the bedside manner of the individual physician, the relationship between a doctor and a patient, and the ability of a human being to feel the pain of another human being is something that AI will never be able to do. What AI will be able to do, as Professor Ramkumar repeated again and again, is it will be able to generate data, and it will be able to study that data. It will be able to statistically, not just fantasize statistically, but improvise statistically, which is the biggest dense kind of challenge of AI. And I have very sincere questions about AI to Professor Krishnakumar. What if my physician likes my digital twin more than me because I'm annoying? And says, I'd rather treat that guy than this idiot. Those are the kind of nightmares I'm living with. But on a serious note, coming to the star of the day, the kidney, usually it's a 2-hero subject, but sometimes you can go with a solo hero as well, as we've noticed, with donors and receivers competing together in what I found out is the Special Olympics for donors and receivers of organs, which just blew my mind. because that's kind of the place where you have two ends of the spectrum coming in as equals because of this incredible process that they've endured of saving a human life and continuing to live yours to the fullest. I think that's a really special relationship paradigm for me to study as an actor. And overall, in terms of speaking about health and kidney and all of that, in the group na konjam doop da. Ideally, I should have brought my wife because she lives this way of life. She's very particular about her lifestyle, the way she eats, what time she wakes up, and how much liquid she drinks. I'm, well, you know, I've just lived my life, my whole life without planning it too much. And, you know, the only tanni I've ever telchified is my parents telchifying it and saying, Kito pannu po, you know. So I'm just living on, you know, just throwing caution to the wind and let my chips fall where they may. But I can tell you a lot of our habits, whether it's drinking water or consuming salt or urinating at a specific scheduled time, all come from the first 15 years of our life. And I always like to believe that just like in AI, I just want to protect the children, just like I want to protect the children from social media. I want to protect the children from other human beings. I want to protect the children from the pollution. So just like that, the first 15 years, if the way you're brought up, or the way you're allowed to grow up, has as little fear as possible, as little regimentation as possible, you tend to, you know, automatically drink more water, automatically eat good food if your parents have the time and the love to give you that food and teach you the good habits. Like, for example, I went to school in a boys' school across 2-3 cities in India, and I got bullied through school. So when I used to go to the toilet, I was scared, because anything could happen in that bathroom in a boys' school. And also I didn't like the smell of public toilets. So I would hold myself in a lot. And I found out later that that's not a very healthy way to grow up. You know, so your systemic environment leads a lot to how you make decisions in your life. And as far as the salt and the attack on salt that Dr. RC has been conducting, it's like power, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, salt and everything just ruins everything. So, you know, you just have to be, they always say everything in the right doses is pretty good. So I know salt is nutritious, but we can't have it be the star of every film. So it's very important to keep that in control. And personally, I attribute a lot of my life goals to achieving happiness in terms of waking up happy and going to sleep happy. And I think if I could leave you guys with one thought, it would be that, which is the only thing you have control over is your happiness, and all the other factors that come with it, most of them are not in your control. So just like that, controlling your diet, drinking enough fluid, sleeping well, trying to keep stress at bay, and trying to live happily with the people around you with kindness. I think that all of it is good for general medical health, but I've just been taking some notes. It's even better for kidney health. So, you know, I wish all of you, some of you are in different stages of healing. Some of you are in different stages of you're going to be needing healing, including myself. So for all of us in this room, thank you to the physicians who do this. And they go way beyond the Hippocratic Oath to be there as fellow human beings and then physicians after. And for all of your curiosity and all of your sacrifice, all of us are eternally grateful. And thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be back next year. And like I said, I'd like to bring my parents so that they can hear this introduction again. And I'd like to bring my wife so she can give you a more accurate, you know, healthy lifestyle paradigm than her husband. This has been an actor talking about kidney health. Thank you for your time. My name is Siddharth. Cheers.